Well, if you didn't know any better, you could easily think today was January 10th instead of November 10th. A touch early for a snowfall here in central and eastern Kentucky, usually by a couple of weeks before the first flakes, let alone a bit of light accumulation, which we had across parts of the area. The system's pulling out, but still chilly, I think mainly dry. We've got kind of a secondary spoke of energy. It's going to slide in from the northwest. I think if anything, a few scattered clouds, but if we see a sprinkle, notice how I mentioned sprinkle as opposed to snowflake. Wouldn't be surprised by that. Quiet and pleasant fall weather for the midweek and milder heading into the upcoming weekend. That's good for game day, the final one out of Kroger Field for the 2025 season. Viper radar showing the bulk of the activity now to the east and south of Lexington. We're beginning to wind things down. It was really coming down at the top of the hour, but the bulk of this stuff is going to be flying around across southern and southeastern Kentucky for the remainder of the evening, at least over the next maybe 2, 3, 4 hours tops, especially along the Kentucky-Virginia border. And with the sun having set a few minutes ago, things will get a little bit more problematic relative to the roadways, especially the bridges and the overpasses. So you need to keep that in mind. Really anywhere around the area, if it appears wet, the road temperatures are falling because our air temperatures, of course, have been below freezing a lot of the day. Where you see some of the deeper blue with the loop there, that's where we've seen a heavier burst of a snow showers, kind of like the convective type activity that we see during the heating of the day in the summer, only this is in the frozen form. Circulation with the upper level system that is rotating out. So we should see some improvement. In fact, coming up at 7 o'clock, winter weather advisory expires. Now they are hanging on to it for southeastern Kentucky until 10 o'clock. I think the impacts will be a little bit more there. Much better weather. Hicks and Funsicam looked at this literally 20 minutes ago. You couldn't even see the Hamburg area here on the east side. So I think we're beginning to wind things down. 28. We haven't moved at all since earlier in the day. We've been hanging in the upper 20s. Throw that west wind in at about 10 to 15. Feels like 19, so no picnic to be out and about. Up on the hilltop near Hyman, Knott County, still snowing there, and 24. So again, just jumping headfirst into the winter season and taking a look at our traffic cams. Notice the major roads all looking pretty good. Snowing at a decent clip, it looks like there at Moorhead. And note the road temperatures at or even a few below the freezing mark. And these may drop off and probably should as the sun is setting now. As mentioned, upper 20s to around 30. Throw the wind in there, even with it backing down a bit, and those wind chills are in the upper teens at times. So ideal setup. In fact, this thing's overachieved a bit compared to how it was looking, say, back at the end of last week. That will rotate out, and that's actually going to allow skies to clear out, at least for a period of time. Notice by later this evening, things quieting down. Will be 20s or so in the morning, and I mentioned that next little spoke of energy coming around the bend, but with a southwest wind, that should push us back into the low 40s. So you see that speck of blue. Really, if we see anything again, I think it's going to be in the form of a sprinkle or a passing shower. The other part of it is the wind chills are really going to be down here into the low teens, maybe a few upper single digits as we roll through tomorrow morning. But by the afternoon, yeah, it'll feel chilly, but we're going to do a whole lot better. So finally, look at what is on the way. By the end of the week, we are actually going to be at or above average for this time of the year. This little weak boundary slides through on Wednesday, a little southwest flow ahead of it, so upper 50s. Behind it, northwest flow, so we knock a couple of degrees off of afternoon highs. Good news relative to the rain chances. Not expecting anything until the end of the weekend. And once again, it's going to be one of those deals where we start out pleasant. That's great for outdoor activities on Saturday, including Kentucky and Tennessee Tech out of Kroger Field, 1:30 in the afternoon. And then by Sunday, it does look like those rain chances ramp up. So checking out your 7-day forecast here, looking at, again, a chilly Veterans Day, only in the low 40s, but we break out of this in a hurry. Mainly dry through the week, good on Saturday, even with rain chances returning into the weekend early next week. Afternoon highs still in the low to mid 60s.